The title of this podcast is This is Going to Be the Best Day Ever. Back in 1982, after I finished a stint in the Marine Corps, I had a roommate that I also served with, and we lived in our first apartment in Phoenix together. He was from Alabama, I was from Tennessee. We both decided that we were going to give Arizona a try post-service of the military. And in our first apartment, we had an answering machine. And this is back in the day before I think cell phones were around, at least before we had cell phones. And with a landline and with the telephone that we purchased, it had a cassette in which we would record a message that would invite people that called us when we were away to leave a message, and we would return their call. We had this idea, and it was spontaneous to create a really engaging message. And it went something like, whoop. That's right. That's right. You have reached the home of Keith and Navarro. We out in the world making it happen, baby. We want you to leave your name and number, and we will get back to you ASAP. Yeah, let's go. And then the message would go. And I would say once a week, somebody would leave us a message that it was the first time they heard it. And they talked about how that message that we left made them laugh, made them feel joy and energy, and it really made their day. So we kept that message on there for quite a few years that we lived together. And when I think about that message back then, and we tried to recreate it, but we couldn't like capture that same kind of energy, several years later. But when I think about that, I remember we would roll out of the house each day and we'd be like, this is going to be the best day ever. And several years have passed since that time. And sometimes I would walk, go out into the world like this is going to be the best day ever. And other times I wasn't conscious and I was going to be at the effect of however life showed up. That all changed when I started doing the practice and I became very intentional about how I would begin my day. And as I mentioned before, it would begin with reading a page out of the Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living book, doing a gratitude practice, listen to an inspiring podcast or a faith-based talk, some kind of physical movement or exercise. And then lastly, with the people that I'm also doing this well-being practice with, sending out a text message that I've completed the practice, and they would do the same. So that has really grounded me every day with going out with the intention of making sure that I'm spiritual going out into the world. And I would use everything that showed up in my life that day as an opportunity for me to grow. And this idea of this being the best day ever was, I was reminded by it by my friend Brian, who sent out a message to a group of us who are doing the practice. And it really said, it talked about this older person who was over 100 years old and who had all their cognitive ability. They were still very active. They were loving life. And one of the grandchildren asked, like, what is the secret? And they talked about the secret is every day they wake up, they say to themselves, this is going to be the best day ever. And that's exactly what it was for them. So I invite you to consider living each one of your days this way. Walk into each space, each situation, just like this. The only thing that can stand in your way is your ego, or for you to not go out and be very intentional about what you want that day to be. And for me, I want to create every day to be the best day ever. Now, there's going to be some days where life just kind of seems to line up exactly to my preferences, and I welcome those. And there are going to be other days that life is going to show up and it will not be what I would have chosen. And I will accept that too and welcome it as a gift for me to grow. So remember, every day, wake up and say to yourself, this is going to be the best day ever.